strong evidence that the fascist Oromo regime of Ethiopia and allies committed genocide in Tigray War. The Tigray War may be one of the deadliest conflicts of this century. The numerous atrocities committed in Ethiopia's civil war have yet to draw the attention of the international community. Measured by the estimated number of deaths, the Tigray War in Ethiopia could be the deadliest armed conflict of the 21st century and one of the bloodiest since the end of the Cold War. From its outbreak in 2020 to the official ceasefire in 2022, the civil conflict claimed the lives of up to 400,000 soldiers and 300,000 civilians. Despite the intense human suffering, this forgotten war has not garnered the international attention it desperately needs. There is an unfortunate sense in which the world is too ready to move on after its initial efforts. The International Commission of Human Rights Experts on Ethiopia dissolved before concluding its work. The United States, despite recognizing more than 500,000 deaths in the region and that crimes against humanity and war crimes had been committed, there has restored financial and economic assistance to the status quo ante bellum. Similarly, the EU has returned to its $680 million development strategy with the nation despite a lack of accountability for the widespread abuses in the region. The consequence has been that international efforts to verify serious breaches of international law have not been followed through or adequately supported. Victims will carry with them scoring and abuse from a conflict that, despite an apparent cessation of hostilities in 2022, did not result in a stable peace. Innocent lives continue to be lost, and many millions continue to face food insecurity resulting from military campaigns. More time must be given not only to investigate and, as needed, provide accountability for the blockade on humanitarian aid that contributed to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Tigrayans, but also to investigate and provide accountability for the widely reported mass murder, rape, forced displacement, physical abuse, and torture which took place, as well as the targeting of key civilian infrastructure such as the healthcare system. Strong evidence that Ethiopia committed genocide in Tigray War. Report says Ethiopia and allies had intent to destroy Tigrayans as an ethnic group and calls for prosecution at ICJ. There is compelling evidence that Ethiopian forces committed genocidal acts during the Tigray War, a new report has concluded.
It's crazy. It's truly disturbing. I mean, absolutely disturbing. It sounds like something out of like a Bond villain. Like if you were to write this as part of a movie, people would say, no, this is ridiculous. You're going to have a billionaire who's going to go to the Virgin Islands. He's going to seek out children in order to do biomedical research, implanting things in their brains.
Yeah. He was specifically trying to target a lot of the same areas that Bill Gates's philanthropy hits, not just science, but also education. And a lot of these old press releases refer to Epstein as a prominent education patron and things of that nature. And, you know, in some of my past work, I was able to show that back in 1998, he was going to places like Russia, looking at high schools, visiting high schools and apparently elementary schools, looking for kids that were talented in science and math. And some of these pictures of him in these Russian classrooms, the only kid that's there looks like he's 8 or 9. He's just a single kid alone with Epstein and some of these other scientists that he was close to in the room. And, you know, what it really disturbs me that no one has, you know, really bothered to look at this or scrutinize this in any capacity. And as far as Google and like Larry Page and Sergey Brin, so both of the Google co-founders are being subpoenaed by the U.S. Virgin Islands in connection with their investigations into Epstein. Larry Page is apparently so concerned about being served papers that he can't be found. They're trying to go through Alphabet, Google's parent company, because he's still on the board of Alphabet, to try and get access to him that way, but he really does not want to have to testify in this case, and that should be really telling. In the testimony, there's a particular reference Epstein makes to Africa, and he says, I do a lot of work in Africa, and he refers to Africa as fertile ground for experimentation. And so it turns out that Epstein was a major funder of this weird artificial intelligence lab being created in Ethiopia that's tied to the scientist who's overtly transhumanist that he funded extensively, named Benjamin Goertzel. Goertzel is, for example, head of Humanity Plus, formerly the World Transhumanist Association, which is an entity that Epstein funded in addition to funding Goertzel's own work. And Goertzel is also the chief scientist at Hanson Robotics, which has produced these human-like robots, the best well-known probably being Sophia, the robot that was, for example, granted citizenship by Mohammed bin Salman at a time when one of his close advisors was Jeffrey Epstein. Again, very odd activity there. So as far as what was going on in Ethiopia at the time that Epstein was investing in this AI lab and backing Gertzel, Gertzel was teaming up with this blockchain company called Cardano that's pretty well known in the cryptocurrency space. And they were specifically seeking to offer digital ID. Well, it's already happened. They gave a digital ID essentially to 5 million Ethiopian school children with the intention of expanding that. And the whole intention of this is to harvest data from these children. They explicitly say that. So, and even in other documents, Gertzel essentially says that this data is being used to feed, the AI that powers robots like Sophia at Hanson Robotics and stuff. So what exactly is going on here, and what are these transhumanists up to, and why are they so overtly interested in children? And what was Jeffrey Epstein, who was interested in children in numerous disturbing ways, interested in doing? I think this is something that needs to be scrutinized, because it seems like Epstein was a child predator in multiple senses.